The story begins as a boy is reincarnated as the 13th Imperial Prince Noah Aristocrat. The Emperor learns that his affinity is with water, so he bestows him the land of Almeria, since it's the home to many of the Water Clan. He orders his servant to check Noah's stats, and they're all amazed when they see that his water affinity is already at SS rank. They all think he's a genius, and he has no idea what's happening, but he knows that he has been reincarnated as a noble. We learn that the Mir's Empire is a rich nation of warriors in a mountain range, and its capital is situated on an open plain, where the people enjoy peaceful lives. The Emperor has over 10 children, who are known as Imperial Princes, and they're respected since they're the most famous nobles. We see that Noah is now 6, and we learn that everyone thinks his water affinity is SS rank, but it appears differently when he's the one looking at it. He realizes it increased after he was given Almeria, and his stats also improved after hiring maids, so he realizes he can get stronger by having more subordinates. He notices that he doesn't have a level cap, so there's no limit to how much stronger he can become, and the mates think he's amazing since he's so calm and composed. One of them, named Evelyn, notes that the Crown and 4th Prince have arrived to visit him, so he goes out to meet them. The Crown Prince Albert reveals that they have a present for him, but a dark aura suddenly appears in the room as a servant brings out a weapon box. Albert orders the man to open it, but Noah suddenly hears people screaming as he sees the cursed sword Leviathan. Albert tells him to pick it up, and he knows that he can't refuse since it's a gift from the Crown Prince, so he decides to accept it. Albert reveals that it's the strongest water magic sword in the Empire, and over 100 people have died trying to master it. But the 4th Prince Henry tells him not to worry, since they died the moment they tried to lift it. Albert thinks Noah can wield it since his water affinity is SS rank, and notes that he enjoyed the demonstration, so Noah realizes that he was testing him. As he leaves, Henry asks him if he made the right decision, since they know that the sword is priceless. But Albert thinks it doesn't matter, since it's better off in the hands of a genius like Noah, and notes that it should teach him what it's like to be bitten by his own pet. That evening, Noah wonders why his maid Zoe seems to be unhappy, and she tells him not to worry, but he wants to know what's bothering her. So she tells him she needs time off, and explains that her mother is now out of work because a flood destroyed her hometown of Doso. She reveals that her relatives want her to work in the red light district, since it's the only way for them to make ends meet, but he tells her he's heard enough. He decides to give her mother a job in the mansion, and notes that he'll pay her 10 reen a month, but Zoe thinks it's too much. He also notes that he has a spare house on the western outskirts of the capital, so she and her mother can use it, and she cries as she thanks him for his kindness. We learn that he doesn't want her to work in the red light district, since his reputation will be ruined if the people learn that she worked for him, so he wants her to continue serving him. He calls his butler Dylan, and tells him to buy as much land as possible in Doso, since he knows that conmen will try to take advantage of the people suffering from the flood. Dylan is surprised that he's already taken that into account, since he's never dealt with such a situation before, but we learn that he already experienced it during his past life. Dylan wonders how they'll get the funds, mentioning that they would need 700,000 reen, which is a ridiculous amount. Noah knows that the average income in the capital is 120 reen a year, and even his retainers only earn 8,000, but he does the math, and realizes that his household has 500,000. So he knows that he needs 200,000 more, and he orders Dylan to sell their land to the south, but he tells Noah they can't sell it since it was a gift from the Emperor. Noah notes that he's ready to accept his father's punishment, and explains that the nobles need to make sacrifices for the people, since it's their responsibility to keep them happy. Dylan decides to carry out his orders, and thanks him for his kindness, since Doso is also his hometown. Noah prepares to leave, and Henry asks him where he's going, so he reveals that he will inspect the land of Doso, since he plans to buy it. Henry asks him if he plans to use the Leviathan, so he explains that he doesn't plan to wield it, but he'll test it when he gets the chance. He wonders why Henry came to talk to him alone, so he explains that he looked into what Albert told him, and notes that the sword has a will of its own. It only obeys the person it considers its master, so Noah realizes that he must earn its recognition, and Henry warns him that he might die if he uses it. Noah and the others reach Doso, and he thinks the people lost their land deeds because of the flood, so he realizes that he needs to buy their lands based on the government office's lists. Dylan leaves for the government office, and Noah tells Zoe to come with her, since she knows her way around the village. They see people distributing food to the villagers, but Noah realizes that it tastes terrible, and a man notes that they're in no position to complain since they need the food to survive. The local official named Geralt checks the food and thinks it looks fine, but Noah suddenly asks him if he's getting a kickback. Geralt doesn't recognize him, so he tells him they have the right to take something in return for their kindness, and the others agree with him. They all laugh at Noah since they think they taught him a lesson, but he tells them what they're doing is a crime, so Geralt prepares to teach him a lesson. Noah thinks that he's just like Leviathan, since they both prey on the weak, and it suddenly flies to his side. He knows that it's upset since he compared it to Geralt, and he tells it to show him its strength, so it unleashes its power, and he realizes that he's nothing compared to it. He tells it to use its power for the good of the people, and it finally recognizes him as its master, so it allows him to wield it. He uses it to cut Geralt's head off, so his guards prepare to arrest Noah, but Leviathan suddenly summons water to strike the ground, and it leaves behind a giant hole. The ruler of the land named Rowan suddenly arrives at the scene, and he bows before Noah, since he recognizes him as the 13th prince. He reveals that he's a servant of Henry, and tells everyone to show respect, since they're in the presence of royalty. They all bow before him, and he tells Rowan he executed Geralt for his crimes, but he still hasn't punished the chefs, so he wants Rowan to deal with them. He notes that they should start over with the food distribution, but they need to add more to the soup, and Rowan promises to follow his orders. The villagers are happy that they'll be able to eat proper food, and they all praise Noah, while Zoe realizes that he's amazing. Albert learns about what happened, and he can't believe Noah was able to control Leviathan, thinking he might be more useful than he thought. The Emperor summons Noah and tells him he heard about what happened, so Noah is ready to accept his punishment. But the Emperor thanks him for dealing with the people who took advantage of the flood, and notes that he would have cleaned the mess himself if he learned about them. Noah explains that it was a coincidence that he bumped into them, and the Emperor knows that he became Leviathan's master, so he asks his servant to check Noah's stats again. They realize that his water stat is now triple S rank, and the Emperor is impressed by his progress, telling him to use his talents for the Empire. Noah heads to the capital, since the eunuchs told him there's a popular singer who performs there. He enters a theater, where he sees a singer named Alice, and he enjoys watching her performance. But a group of thugs suddenly interrupts her, and the owner of the theater tries to stop them, but their leader pushes him away, and reminds Alice that she still needs to pay off her father's debt. He thinks she won't earn enough by singing, so he suggests using her body to make money, but Noah stops them, and explains that it's illegal to make children sell their bodies to pay off their parents' debts. Their leader grabs onto him, but he defends himself with Leviathan, so they promise to get revenge and run away. Noah tells the owner to bring them to him if they return, and asks Alice about her expenses, so she explains that it's a lot, since she pays for her mother's treatment. He offers to give her 25 reen a month if she continues singing, and promises to increase her pay when she improves, so she happily accepts his proposal. Noah returns to his mansion, and he sees the thugs outside, since they want to apologize for their actions. But he orders Evelyn to send them away, because a prince isn't someone they can meet whenever they want, and Henry tells him he made the right move. He explains that a prince shouldn't grant an audience to troublemakers, since it would affect their standing as royalty, but Noah reveals that he has another reason. He invites Henry to his room, where he tells him about Alice, and explains that he wants the thugs to think he's angry at them, so that they will leave her alone. Henry is impressed that he can think ahead, and notes that their other brothers who are close to his age aren't as wise as him, but Noah thinks they'll learn as they become more experienced. We learn that the imperial princes have different mothers, and those with the same mother are closer to each other, but Henry notes that he wants to talk about Leviathan. He wonders how Noah carries it around, so he takes it out, and reveals that he can hide it in his sleeve, since it taught him how to control its size. At night, the thugs are still waiting for Noah to talk to them, but their leader starts to lose it, and he calls out to Noah. So he uses Leviathan's power to threaten the thug, causing him to freak out, and his friends tell him to just keep his head down. Noah meets a man named Reborn, who takes him to a room full of nobles, and they all recognize him as the 13th prince. Reborn asks him about the sword he's carrying, so he explains that it's a gift from the crown prince, and everyone recognizes it as a national treasure. A man thinks it's just a toy replica, but everyone stares at him, so he becomes embarrassed. Leviathan becomes angry and unleashes its power to attack everyone, but Noah stops it, and they're impressed that he was able to control it. The nobles introduce themselves to Noah, reveals that he came with his daughter. But Noah knows that she's adopted, and explains that he can tell just by looking at the way she behaves, thinking she's a former slave. He's impressed that Noah was able to guess it correctly, and admits that he bought her as a slave, but he decided to adopt her since she learns quickly. Noah finds their story interesting, and notes that he'll invite them to his mansion so that he can talk to them, but as they walk away, we see that the other nobles are jealous since Noah acknowledged them. He tells Radok there's another reason he could tell she's adopted, and as he unleashes Leviathan's power, she immediately responds to it. He explains that she's been protecting Byron since he first used his sword, and notes that it isn't how noble girls behave, because they're usually the ones being protected. The next day, Noah meets the 8th Prince Oscar, who invites him to go treasure hunting, and they head to Cobalt Street, where they see antiques from all over the Empire. Oscar reveals that most of them are fake, and explains that a noble should be able to find the real treasures, so they start looking around. He doesn't find anything interesting, but Noah sees a strange book, and decides to buy it for 3 reen. Oscar realizes that it's a grimoire of a legendary sorcerer, and notes that it's a real treasure, which they will be able to sell for 1,000 reen. He wonders how Noah knew what it was, and we learn that he had no idea, but his wind affinity increased when he touched it, so he decided to buy it. He prepares to stab it with his sword, since he knows that only beings with a will of their own can change his stats, which means the book must have a soul inside it. Dark energy suddenly comes out of it, and it brings forth the sorcerer's soul, which has been sealed inside the book. Oscar suggests retreating, since he knows that the sorcerer is a master of wind magic, but Noah uses Leviathan's water to destroy it. Oscar wonders how the street wasn't damaged, so Noah explains that he aimed upward, and Oscar is impressed that he was able to make that decision in an instant. A merchant named Alan tells Noah he needs his help, since he wants to know if the item he owns is a real treasure. He takes them to his store, where he shows them a ring, and explains that it's supposed to show its true form when its true owner appears. But he has shown it to a lot of people, and it never responds, so he thought it was trash and tried to get rid of it a number of times. But it keeps coming back to his store, so he thinks there's something special about it, and Oscar tells Noah to try it on. So he wears the ring, but it suddenly recognizes him as its new owner, and transforms into a suit of armor. He realizes that it didn't change his stats, which means it doesn't have a will of its own, and he tells Alan he wants to buy it. But Oscar decides to pay for it, and tells Noah to consider it a gift. After that, we see Noah as he gets off Oscar's carriage, but the leader of the thugs suddenly attacks him. So he uses his ring to defend himself, and the driver of the carriage takes the thug down, as Noah wonders why he hasn't given up yet. Oscar asks him how he blocked the attack, so he explains that the ring automatically protects him if it senses danger, since he linked it to Leviathan. Noah returns to the theater, where he watches Alice perform, but there are men that start fighting over her, since they both want her to have a drink with them. Noah uses his sword to embarrass them, causing them to run away, and the owner apologizes for their behavior. Noah tells him to ban people like that, but he explains that he needs customers to keep his business alive, so Noah offers to buy the theater for 1,000 reen. The owner gladly accepts his offer, and Alice wonders how she can repay him for everything he's done for her, so he tells her to just keep singing, since he likes listening to her music. He knows that she has potential, which is why he wants the Emperor to watch her performance in the future, and he tells her to devote herself to singing until then. He returns to his seat, and listens to her as she puts on a stunning performance, thinking the other treasures in the capital are nothing compared to her. We see Noah in his room, where his mates tell him he has a guest, so he orders them to let him in. He meets the Governor-General of Hanzhou named Dread, who was ordered by the Emperor to manage flood control in his area, but Noah can tell that it isn't going well. We learn that Hanzhou is a grain-producing region in Almeria near a large river, but it suffers from flooding on occasion, so the Emperor ordered Dread to solve the problem. Noah wonders why he hasn't solved it yet, so he reveals that he hasn't received funding from the Empire, because the Ministry of Finance keeps coming up with excuses. Noah visits the head of the Ministry of Finance named Maverick, and asks him why he hasn't given Dread the money he needs. He explains that Hanzhou hasn't been paying taxes, since the Emperor granted them tax exemption after they suffered from flood damages last year, so he thinks they still have leftover tax money. He notes that they should use it instead of asking for funds from the Ministry of Finance, but Noah tells Maverick not to underestimate him since he knows that Hanjo has no money because of the floods. He explains that his father granted Hanjo tax exemption because they're in no position to pay for it, and he tells Maverick to tell him the truth. So he explains that he can't give Hanjo the money they need since the Empire needs funds to build the Emperor's vacation house, but Noah tells him he's committing a crime against the Imperial family. He tells Maverick he's using the Emperor as an excuse to not give the people what they need, and threatens to report him to the Emperor if he doesn't distribute the funds. So he orders his men to give Hanjo the money immediately, and Dredd is amazed that Noah got Maverick to yield without lifting a finger, so he praises his negotiation skills. Dredd leaves for Hanjo to work on the flood control projects, and a man reports to Noah, telling him the Emperor wants to meet him. Noah heads to the palace, where the Emperor praises him for dealing with Maverick, so he explains that he just did what he thought was right. But the Emperor knows that it's difficult to deal with dishonest people, and he's impressed that Noah was able to do it, even though he's only 6 years old. The Emperor can't believe he has become Leviathan's master, because he knows about its dark history, but he thinks Noah needs to learn how to wield it. So he introduces him to the Empire's greatest swordsman named Damien, and notes that Noah should learn from him, but he wants to test Noah's strength right away. He takes out his sword, and tells Noah to bring it on, so he prepares to fight, but the memories of Leviathan's past wielders suddenly flow into him. He charges at Damien, who tries to block his attacks, but Noah uses a technique to disarm him. He knows that he won thanks to Leviathan's past wielders, and Damien admits defeat, telling the Emperor he has nothing to teach Noah since he's no match for him. The Emperor realizes that Noah is a genius swordsman, so he decides to make him the head judge in the knight selection exam, telling him he's the perfect person for the job. He promises to complete the task, and we learn that fighters from all over the Empire will participate in the exam since they want to become successful warriors. Regional preliminaries are held to determine the best fighters, who will fight for the top spot in the capital, and the champion will join the upper ranks of society as a knight. His first job is to become a subordinate of the head judge, and Noah thinks he needs to pick the best fighter in the exam so that his stats will also improve. Damien notes that Noah gets to decide the competition format, so he tells his father to get rid of the regional preliminaries because he wants to do all the judging in the capital. After that, Zoe tells Noah that Doso only sends one candidate for the exam every year, since they can barely afford travel and lodging expenses. Noah wants more candidates to participate, so he promises to pay for their expenses, and tells Dylan to buy all the vacant houses and talk to the merchants in the capital, since they need to be ready when the candidates arrive. Noah talks to Byron, and wonders why his services are so cheap, so Byron explains that he gave Noah a huge discount since he's the 13th prince. But he knows that Byron is lying, since merchants don't give away money out of compassion, and he asks Byron what he wants. He's amazed that Noah was able to see through him, and admits that he needs his help with the palace employment exam, since he wants the Emperor to hire a girl he knows. He notes that he already sent a token of gratitude, and Noah promises to put in a good word for the girl, but explains that he'll only do it if he likes her. Byron promises to pick a candidate who will measure up to his standards, and he asks for permission to put Noah's crest on his store sign, since he wants to elevate his status. So Noah realizes that Byron wants to be his subordinate, and he warns him that he won't tolerate betrayal. That evening, we see Noah riding a carriage, and he notices that his stats have improved, since he accepted Byron as his subordinate. But he suddenly sees that his water affinity went down, so he thinks something must have happened in Almeria. He heads to the Emperor and tells him Almeria has a problem, and he wonders how Noah found out about it, but his servant suddenly reports to him. He realizes that Noah is right, since there's a rebellion in Almeria, and he asks Noah if he knows how big it is. He thinks about how much it changed his stats, and tells the Emperor it must be small at the moment, so the Emperor reveals that he's right, since there are only around 5,000 rebels. He asks Noah if he wants to deal with them, but he knows that the soldiers won't listen to him, since he's still too young to lead them in combat. He thinks his older brothers should lead them against the rebels, and the Emperor asks him who he wants to recommend, so he notes that Henry is the best choice, since he's the most prudent of his brothers. After that, Noah travels with Henry in a carriage, but Leviathan suddenly senses danger, so Noah orders the driver to stop. He knows that the attackers want to get rid of him, and he doesn't want to get Henry involved, so he jumps out of the carriage, but they suddenly trap him with their water magic. They prepare to take him out, but he manages to break free, and he thinks they're Almerian rebels, since they know how to use water magic. They try to cut him down, but he easily defeats them, and their leader can't believe they lost to a kid. Henry is impressed that he was able to take them down, but wishes he had the chance to interrogate them, so Noah tells him they're still alive, since he only used Leviathan's threat to knock them out. The next day, Noah talks to Byron and tells him there's a rebellion in Almeria, but he wants him to keep it a secret. He knows the cavalry are the center of their forces, and he orders Byron to buy all the horse feed in Almeria, since he wants to starve their horses. Byron thinks his plan is brilliant, promising to carry out his orders, and Noah thinks about how it should make the fight easier for Henry. The Emperor reveals that the rebels they captured gave them useful information, and notes that they tried to kidnap Noah since they wanted to use him as a bargaining chip. The Emperor praises him for taking them down, and notes that depriving the rebels' horses of food is a brilliant move, telling him that Albert came up with the idea of starving the rebels. But Noah knew that it would turn the people of Almeria against them, so he decided to starve the horses instead, and the Emperor admits that he's impressed by Noah's ideas. He decides to reward him by adding a sword to his crest, which is among the greatest honors one can earn, since it's the symbol of a warrior, and only the Emperor can add it to a crest. After that, Byron tells Noah about the leader of the rebels, and notes that he's the kind of person who will do anything to achieve his goal. Evelyn notes that there's a wounded man at the gate, so Noah decides to meet him, and he reveals that he's a cavalry officer from Almeria. He tells Noah about the rebellion, and explains that he couldn't go along with it, so he decided to escape and report to him instead. Byron knows the report is worthless, since Noah already knows about it, but he thanks the man for informing him, and orders Evelyn to treat him. He decides to reward the man with 5,000 reen, and Byron wonders why he would do that, so he explains that the man deserves the reward for his loyalty. We see Zoe as she heads to Noah's office, but he wonders why she looks pale, so she shows him the 500 reen the rebels gave her, and reveals that they wanted her to pour a sleeping drug into his drink. He realizes that they plan to capture him while he's sleeping, and she tells him she could never betray him, since he has done so much for her. But she starts to cry, and reveals that the rebels threatened to kill her if she didn't give him the drug, so he decides to give her 5,000 reen as a reward for being loyal to him. She thanks him for his generosity, but he tells her she needs to do something important, and orders her to give him to the rebels after he takes the drug. But he knows that they'll try to silence her if she sticks around, so he tells her to run and hide. After that, Noah wakes up in a carriage and realizes he has been kidnapped, so he uses his ring to break free and takes out Leviathan, asking it to show him its memories. He realizes that the rebels took him away, and Zoe was able to escape on time, so everything's going according to his plan. He appears before the rebels, who think he was able to escape since the ropes weren't tied properly, and they look down on him since he's just a kid. He cuts one of them down, and mocks them for being a bunch of lackeys, so they all take out their swords and gang up on him, but he easily takes them out. He sees Zoe with a group of knights, and she apologizes for not following his plan, revealing that she decided to call the knights since she was worried about him. He realizes they're there to save him, but they're amazed that he defeated the rebels alone, and he orders the captain to take care of them. As he lifts one of them, the rebel's sword drops to the ground, and Noah tells everyone to stay away from it, since he knows that it's cursed. He notices that it's filled with the hatred of the rebel leader, and realizes he can use Leviathan to find him, so he fires a bolt of energy, which travels through the sky and pierces the leader's head. The next day, the Emperor learns about what happened, and praises Noah for taking down the bandit leader. We learn that the Almerian rebels were disorganized after they lost their leader, so they were no match for Henry, and we see everyone gathered in a court, where they wait for the Emperor to decide the rebels' punishment. He orders the executioners to ready the horses and cattle, and notes that he wants the rebels to be drawn and quartered, since he wants to make them pay for going against Noah. But he tells the Emperor he's against it, since he wants them to be punished in accordance with the law, and reminds him that the law has a different mode of execution for rebels. He notes that if the Emperor breaks the law, everyone will start to question his supremacy, so he decides to listen to Noah, and praises him for catching his mistake. But he notes that a tame punishment won't satisfy him, so he wants the rebels to be punished to the full extent of the law, and Noah agrees with his decision. He orders the first Prime Minister Nas to take care of everything, and everyone praises Noah for correcting the Emperor's mistakes. The Emperor decides to reward him with a title and notes that all of his children can admonish him, but correcting his mistakes requires talent. He wants to make Noah's cleverness known to his subjects, so he gives him the title of Wise Prince and wishes he had been born earlier. Everyone cheers for him, but the Emperor asks him how he'll judge the knight selection exam, so he notes that he has a plan. They head outside, and Noah orders his servants to throw water at him, but he uses his ring to protect himself. He notes that he'll have the participants attack him, judging them based on how close they get, and the Emperor likes his idea, since it will make the process easier. But he explains that it's risky, since Noah might get hurt if a participant breaks through his defenses, but he thinks it won't be a problem. After that, the Emperor tells Nas that Noah's talents are unmatched, and he knows that Leviathan holds immense power. He orders his servant Cruz to bring out its true seal, and we learn that the legends mention that it must never be broken, but the Emperor thinks Noah can handle Leviathan's full power. The knight selection exam begins, and we learn that it's the largest annual event in the Empire, since it's a nation of warriors, where military might is the only path to success. But it's the first time in history that a prince serves as the head judge, so the people gather to meet him. A participant attacks with all his might, but Noah's ring protects him and breaks the man's sword. The spectators realize that no one can touch him, and Cruz notes that this year's exam is more exciting than those of past years, but the Emperor wonders what kind of fighter Noah will choose. A man summons flames to attack Noah, but it has no effect, and Noah notices that the day is about to end, but he's disappointed since he still hasn't met a worthy candidate. The last participant is a girl named Shirley, and she manages to break through his defense, hitting him in the shoulder. She apologizes for hurting him, and the guards quickly restrain her, so everyone thinks she's about to be punished, but Noah tells the guards to let her go, and mentions that she passed the test. After that, Noah asks Shirley about her armor, so she reveals that it's been handed down in her family for generations, and she wonders if he'll punish her for injuring him. But he reminds her that he ordered her to attack him, so she won't be punished for it, and he tells her to use her thrust on him again. So she charges at him with her sword, but he blocks her attack with his ring, and she wonders why she couldn't break it. So he explains that it's because he isn't holding back, and tells her he was testing her, since he wanted to see if she would follow his orders. He notes that he doesn't need a knight who holds back out of fear, and thinks she has what it takes, since she attacked him even after she wounded him. She promises to serve him for the rest of her life, and he notices that she's using an exaggerated gesture that's only used in plays, but he realizes that she greatly increased his stats. The doctor visits him and patches him up, and she's amazed that a cut could be treated that way, telling him there are no doctors in her village. He wonders how they treat their sick and wounded, so she explains that they just get elders to pray over them, and the doctor notes that it's common in poor villages. Noah knows that the fastest way to become a doctor is to start as an apprentice, so he tells her to bring the smartest people from her village, so that they can learn from the doctor. He promises to cover all the expenses, since he wants her village to have doctors, and she thanks him for his kindness. But he tells her she needs to learn etiquette from the other knights, since she doesn't even know how to bow like them. The next day, Shirley and Zoe hear the maids talking about Noah, and they wonder who he'll end up with, but Shirley reminds them that he's only 6. But they tell her the other princes were married before they turned 15, and we learn that girls have been gathering at the cafes around the mansion, since they want to attract his attention. They think Zoe loves him, and she tells them it isn't true, but they know she's been studying magic recently. They think it's because she wants to be with him, but she explains that she just wants to be useful as his servant, and notes that she's happy to serve him. After that, a knight gives Noah a report on the selection exam, and tells him the new knights are excellent thanks to his screening method. He signs the document, and orders Shirley to see the knight out, but as he prepares to leave, she bows to him and thanks him for visiting Noah. He tells her she doesn't need to be so formal with him since they're both knights, and realizes that Noah ordered her to see him out, because he wants her to learn from him. That evening, we see Alice performing at a party, and Byron congratulates Noah for the successful selection exam, but he tells Byron to enjoy the party and get to know the other guests. Zoe gives Noah a letter addressed to him, and notes that the person who delivered it ran away, so she thinks it might contain classified information. He decides to read it, and learns that the remnants of the Almerian rebels have started to make their move, so he realizes that whoever sent it is working undercover to investigate them. He believes that it's the soldier who informed him about the rebellion, and Zoe thinks he learned that his report was useless, since Noah already knew about the rebels, so he decided to report to him again. But Noah knows that he might die if the rebels learn about his actions, and he knows that Henry is still in Almeria, so he decides to ask for his help in crushing the rebellion. After some time, Noah reads another report, and notes that Henry found the soldier, but he was already in terrible shape, since the rebels tortured him after he was exposed. Noah blames himself for what happened, since he could have stopped it if he had acted sooner, and he orders Zoe to send Almeria a message, that he'll do anything to make sure the soldier survives. Noah heads to the market to look for a gift for Henry, since he wants to thank him for suppressing the rebellion, and a merchant shows him his goods, but he isn't interested in any of them. The merchant shows him a beautiful statue, and explains that it was made by a famous artisan, but glass statues are now a lost art, so there are only 2 of them left in the world. He decides to buy it for 10,000 rein, but Oscar suddenly joins them, and he recognizes the glass statue. He knows that there are only 2 of them in existence, and reveals that he has the other statue, so Noah destroys the one in the shop, which shocks everyone. He tells the merchant not to worry, since he'll still pay for it, and he tells him to spread the rumor that it has been destroyed. Oscar realizes that he did it to increase the value of his statue, and admits that he's impressed, since he wasn't as smart as Noah when he was his age. After he leaves, Noah tells the merchant he'll choose a different gift, and the merchant notes that he still has many items to choose from. As they make their way home, Shirley tells Noah she understands why he destroyed the statue, but she thinks he should have just kept it since it's a treasure. He tells her it was just an object, and explains that he considers the people who are loyal to him as the real treasures, telling her that she's one of them. She realizes that he values his subjects, and thinks he's just like the kind rulers she would see in plays, so she plans to really follow him for the rest of her life. After 6 years, Noah is now 12, and he talks to a new maid named Gigi, who's surprised there's been a line of people bringing him gifts for the past week. He notes that it's become time-consuming to deal with, but he has Evelyn to help him handle it all. We learn that Noah is now stationed at the Ministry of Military Affairs, where Henry is the minister. He tells Noah that they've been ordered to suppress a rebellion in the south, and the Emperor wants them to send an army to crush them to show the difference in their strength. He wonders what Noah thinks about his knight Reese leading the operation, and Noah knows he has an exceptional record, but suddenly asks him about the true number of his soldiers. He becomes flustered hearing this, and he immediately asks for forgiveness. Henry wonders what's going on, so Noah explains that the army receives funding based on the number of registered soldiers, but it's common for generals to register non-soldiers like merchants and other collaborators, to keep the excess funds for themselves. Henry gets angry at Reese hearing this, but Noah notes that it's normally fine, since having more people listed as soldiers also works as a deterrent, like saying you have an army of 100,000, even if it isn't the real number. But in this case, where the Emperor wants them to show off their overwhelming superiority, he asks Reese how many soldiers he really has, so he reveals that they have around 2,000. Noah gives him the money to supply the men, and even tells him he can keep the excess, but reminds him that defeat won't be tolerated. After that, Henry is impressed by how Noah handled the situation, but we learn that Noah has never fought in a war, so he's still at level 1. It seems that many of the princes don't live for long because of an epidemic, but they were actually poisoned by the people competing for power, so princes are protected and forbidden from fighting until they become adults, unless they are directly ordered by the Emperor. Henry thinks it might be time for Noah to get some experience, but a girl suddenly runs in front of their carriage. She begs for someone to help her, and we see a group of slaves being chased by some thugs. Noah tells the men to stop, and he asks them if they have any documentation, reminding them that illegal slave trading is a crime. The men tell him to mind his own business, so he takes out his sword and easily takes them down. Everyone is amazed by how he handled his sword, and he checks up on the girl, but another man suddenly appears. He claims to work for the first Prince Gilbert, and tells Noah he should just pretend he didn't see anything. Henry doesn't seem to know who the man is, so Noah decides to knock him out, and claims he's a fake using the first prince's name, so he orders the guards to take the men to the first prince's estate, so that Gilbert can deal with them himself. After that, Noah explains that he spared the men in case they really did work for Gilbert, but he took them down so that people wouldn't think that he allowed illegal slave trading. He made them out to be fakes so that Gilbert could handle them himself, and Henry is impressed by everything that he considered. As they have dinner at night, Noah gets a message that Gilbert sent them a messenger, telling them that the men were fakes using his name. He had prepared to send them to the court, but they ended up taking their own lives while he wasn't watching. Noah knows that it's a cover-up, so Henry admits that he knows Gilbert is involved in all kinds of illegal activities, but Noah thinks it's normal for him, since even though he's the first prince, he was the son of a concubine, so he can't succeed the throne, and he's just finding ways to vent his frustration. After that, we see Noah telling the children they are free, but he realizes they have nowhere to go, so he orders Dylan to take them in. The girl wonders if he's buying them, but he tells her they're free to leave whenever they want. He thinks about how people should be treasured, and the next day, he dismisses Evelyn from his service, but he asks her to become an administrator for a region within Almeria. We learn that Almeria is too big for him to rule himself, so he has administrators in different regions to act as his proxies. He tells Evelyn that she's the most clever of his maids, and keeping her at the mansion is a waste of her talent, but she mentions that she would rather just stay with him. He knows that she'll do great, which will reflect well on him as the one who appointed her, so she's doing it for his sake, and she happily accepts. Shirley thinks Noah is amazing for how he uses people, unlike the first prince, but he warns her that there are some things she shouldn't say out loud. After that, Noah meets the emperor, who is impressed he was able to protect the first prince's honor. Noah realizes that Gilbert reported the incident himself to make him look innocent, and the emperor thinks about what he would have done if he had been in Noah's situation. The prime minister jokes that the thugs would have gotten the death penalty if they attacked him, so the court laughs, but Noah tells him he's wrong, because if the emperor is attacked while undercover, it only counts as assault if he didn't reveal himself. Everyone is stunned at him correcting the prime minister, and he wonders if he overstepped since it was just a joke, but the emperor laughs, and it turns out he had a bet with the prime minister to test how strict Noah is when it comes to the law. Noah wonders why he's being tested, and the emperor announces him as the new minister of justice. Noah heads to his new position, where he meets the vice minister Vinny, who tells him about his duties as the minister. He reveals that they coordinate all courthouses across the empire and try the cases that occur in the capital, but they also judge serious crimes like rebellion, even though they're committed outside the capital, so Noah realizes that they also function as a common courthouse. He asks Vinny if he receives bribes, and explains that it's okay to tell the truth since he won't be punished for it. He admits that he doesn't get a lot of bribes, but his subordinates get 10 times more than he does, and he explains that he doesn't accept bribes for murder, since he might become a target for revenge. He notes that he only accepts bribes for cases that could go in either direction, but Noah gives him 5,000 reen, and tells him not to accept any more bribes while he's the minister. Vinny is amazed by his generosity, but notes that he doesn't need the money, and promises to stop accepting bribes. Noah isn't sure if he can trust him, but he notices that his stats have increased, so he thinks he can count on him. After that, Noah drinks with Oscar, who congratulates him for becoming the second minister prince in the emperor's 50-year reign, but he wonders why he was appointed. Oscar thinks it's because of favoritism, but Noah isn't convinced, and he mentions how the empire almost collapsed at one point, since the position of crown prince is determined at birth. The other princes idled their lives away, and ended up ruining domestic stability, which is why the empire now grants every prince a fief to rule, and ensures that they get a proper education. Noah thinks being appointed as minister goes beyond education, and Oscar is shocked as he realizes that the emperor wants to make Noah the crown prince. He explains that he isn't sure, but Oscar suddenly receives a report, and notes that the emperor plans to appoint him as minister prince of finance in the next assembly. A group of soldiers storms a building, and they arrest a man named Keats, who wants to remove the emperor from power so that Albert can take the throne. The emperor learns that the soldiers also arrested the men who were working for Keats, and they've already confessed to their crimes, but there's no evidence that Albert is involved. The emperor decides to have Keats executed, but asks Nas about Oscar, so he explains that Oscar is aware of the situation, since Noah already told him everything. The emperor is impressed that Noah was able to figure out his intentions, and he thinks Albert isn't a worthy successor, so he needs to pick someone who can overcome his trial. Vinny tells Noah about the people involved in the insurrection, and he realizes that they're all close to Albert, so he thinks his brother was behind it. He knows that under imperial law, Albert will be cut in half if he's found guilty of insurrection, and his accomplices will also be executed. But Noah knows that the empire will be shaken if his brother is found guilty, so he asks Vinny what the emperor said about the incident. He explains that the emperor wants them to punish the people involved, and Noah understands his father's intentions, so he decides to pass judgment. Noah visits his father and notes that the leader of the insurrection must be cut in half, while his accomplices will also be executed. He knows that Albert wasn't in the list given to the Ministry of Justice, since his father doesn't want him to be punished. But he thinks the insurgents might reveal that Albert is behind it, so he decides to execute them immediately. The emperor orders his servant to increase Noah's annual salary by 1,000 reen, because he has done an excellent job, but he knows that the emperor just doesn't want Albert to be punished. Noah returns to the Ministry of Justice, but he realizes that the guards are injured, and one of them notes that there are intruders inside. He orders Shirley to gather their allies, and he heads inside, but he notices that the guards have been wiped out. He sees an insurgent, so he rushes toward him and cuts him up, but he prepares to take his own life, so Noah uses his ring to stop him. The other insurgents arrive, and they all gang up on Noah, but he easily overpowers them and knocks them out. Vinny can't believe he defeated them, and he notes that the guards suffered casualties, but all the insurgents have been killed. Noah is shocked to hear this, and thinks the insurgents have been silenced, since they're all working for Albert. He's worried that they might spill the beans, so he immediately cuts himself, and tells Vinny to convince everyone that the insurgents did it to him, so that they'll be given the death penalty. After that, Noah's servants treat his wounds, and Vinny notes that the insurgents have been executed, but Noah is glad that he was able to save the empire by taking them out. Noah reports to the emperor, who can't believe the insurgents were able to injure him, and he thinks his father already knows the truth, but he explains that they attacked him while he was distracted. The emperor praises him once again, and tells him that among the 10 emperors who come to be known as great leaders, 9 of them tarnish their reputation later in life. He knows that his father led the empire to a golden age, so he'll go down in history as a great leader, but his legacy will be ruined if the insurrection is successful. Noah knows that he no longer trusts Albert, but he doesn't want to get rid of him, since his reputation will be ruined if he has the crown prince executed. Noah tells him to appoint Albert as Prime Minister Prince, so that he can coordinate the other minister princes, and the emperor is against the idea. But Noah explains that Albert has been the crown prince for 30 years, so he can understand why his brother is starting to lose patience. He suggests letting Albert take on similar duties to the emperor, but his father is worried that Albert might dismiss important matters and not tell him about it. So Noah notes that the minister princes must have the right to file a direct appeal, which will allow them to bypass Albert. He thinks Albert doesn't need to hold any actual power, as long as he has a title, and the emperor thinks it's a good idea, telling him it's a shame he wasn't born sooner. The emperor wants to reward him, so he takes him to the vault, where he tells Noah to pick anything he wants. He orders Leviathan to search the area, and it leads him to a small box, so he opens it, but he suddenly gets surrounded by flames. He sees a fire spirit, and realizes that the item has a will of its own, but it summons flames to burn him, so he calls upon Leviathan to defeat it. The flame disappears, and Noah wears the ring, so his father realizes that he was able to tame Lithia. He wants to test its powers, so they head outside, and he summons its flames, but the emperor wonders why it doesn't feel hot, so he reveals that Leviathan is preventing the heat from escaping. The emperor is impressed by his abilities, and decides to entrust Lithia to him, telling him to use it for the good of the empire. Noah reads a personal declaration from his uncle Graham, and the emperor notes that Graham's son has a terrible reputation, since he ruled over his domain with extreme tyranny. He recently committed a crime by killing someone while he was drunk, but Graham declared a lack of oversight on his part, and offered to pay a fine. Noah notes that Graham committed no crime under imperial law, since he isn't responsible for his son's actions, but the emperor thinks he wants to buy peace of mind. Noah realizes he offers to pay 30,000 reen, which is 250 times the capital's yearly income, but he explains that they can't collect a fine from Graham since he committed no crime. The emperor reveals that the empire is struggling financially because they've been spending money to maintain the peace. But Noah explains that if they accept the fine, the people would get the idea that they can get out of any crime just by paying money. He notes that it will make it harder to prevent crimes, and also breed corruption in the government, so he thinks they should solve their financial problems through other means. The emperor realizes he has a point, so he decides not to accept the money, and gives him the position of premier advisor because of his wisdom. Noah comes up with a proposal, and tells his father they should allow the people to pay money to attain honor, since it will encourage them to donate money to the empire. The emperor tells him his idea is brilliant, and orders his servant to call Oscar, but Noah mentions that he needs to leave, since he wants to give Oscar time with the emperor. After that, Noah sees people around the spot where he used Lithia's flames, and a man named Shozu tells him they can't understand how he melted the ground. He notes that someone fell into the opening, so Noah gives him money, and tells him to use it to help the person who fell. He asks him about the box he's carrying, so he reveals that it's a gift for the 16th prince, who likes to watch beetles fight. As Noah rides his carriage, he orders Leviathan and Lithia to fight, and he learns their moves from watching them. Leviathan wins the match, and Gigi wants to see another round, so he summons them again, but he realizes that he leveled up just by watching them fight. He repeats the process to gain XP, and we learn that Leviathan always wins their fight, but after several rounds, Lithia finally manages to come out on top. Zoe uses her skill to reveal his stats, and they realize he's now at level 3, so she wonders if he can keep raising his level by watching Leviathan and Lithia fight. He explains that it won't be easy, since his progress has slowed down, and he thinks he needs to fight other opponents to level up faster. He thinks about collecting other magic items, but Henry suddenly joins them, and he shows Noah a box, as he mentions that it's time for his first campaign, since the monster nest has finally matured. We learn that the monster's nest is a hunting ground managed by Henry, since he's the Minister Prince of Military Affairs, and he tells Noah that the box will give him a reading of how many soldiers he should bring with him. He opens it, and he gets the number 1, so he thinks he doesn't need to bring anyone with him. Henry can't believe it, and he mentions that it's never happened before, so he thinks Noah is amazing. After that, Reese visits Noah, and reveals that he has an order from the Emperor, telling Noah his first campaign will be postponed. He asks for the reason, so Reese reveals that the Emperor wants to carry out the campaign on a grand scale, since he wants everyone to see how amazing Noah is. Noah visits a merchant, and asks him if he has magic items that have their own will, but he explains that he doesn't. Noah pays him anyway, and the merchant doesn't want to accept it, but Noah promises to reward him again if he finds anything interesting. After that, Noah sees a man named Dalem, who threatens a merchant since he wants to buy an item that another customer has already reserved. Noah stops him, and he knows that Noah is a prince, but he notes that he's a member of Gilbert's household. He explains that since he's in the Ministry of Imperial Household, he can't be punished for crimes other than insurrection, but Noah asks him why he isn't bowing to a member of the Imperial family. He orders Shirley to deal with him, so she takes him down, and Noah notes that he must be punished for his rudeness. They tie him to a post, and Shirley wonders how many lashes they should give him, so Noah orders her to whip him to death. After that, Shirley reveals that she got rid of Dalem, so Noah orders her to tell the authorities what happened, but notes that he wants her to get him a set of handcuffs. They head to Gilbert's mansion, and Noah apologizes for executing Dalem, but Gilbert notes that he deserved to die for his actions. He explains that it isn't a big deal, since he fired Dalem and sent him away for misconduct, and he notes that Noah even saved his reputation by getting rid of him. As they leave the mansion, Shirley asks Noah why he apologized, since Gilbert didn't even seem to care about Dalem. Noah explains that he was actually furious, but he didn't want to upset the Emperor by starting a conflict, so he pretended that it wasn't a big deal. Noah knows that Gilbert sees him as an enemy, but he has already accepted his apology, so Gilbert's reputation will suffer if he mentions Dalem's death again. The next day, Dylan tells Noah he has a visitor from the Ministry of the Imperial Household, and he meets a man named Don, who notes that he was impressed with how Noah dealt with Dalem. He tells Noah he wants to work for him, and Noah accepts him into the Ministry of Justice, but as he watches him leave, he tells Dylan to look into him since he finds him suspicious. After that, Dylan reports that they've finished their investigation, and reveals that Don and his parents work for Gilbert. We learn that the households of nobles want to preserve confidentiality, so there are limits to who they can interact with, and their masters even encourage them to marry each other. Children born to such marriages also swear loyalty to their master, so Dylan thinks Don was sent as a spy, and is impressed that Noah knew he can't be trusted. He recalls how his stats didn't improve when he agreed to let Don work for him, so he immediately knew that something was wrong, but Dylan tells him the merchant has arrived with a treasure. He shows Noah a painting called Awara and notes that it's the work of a renowned artist, but Noah realizes it's cursed. The merchant shows him a replica and reveals that it was made around the same time Awara was painted, but Noah can tell which one is the original since it's giving off a strange aura. He slices it with his sword, but it doesn't break, and Awara's spirit comes out of it. She reveals that her spirit was trapped in the painting since the artist killed her when she was a child and mixed her blood with the paint. She wants to repay Noah for freeing her, and he tells her to swear loyalty to him, so she leaves the painting and decides to follow him. His earth affinity increases, and he tells her to demonstrate her power, so she disguises herself as the merchant, who can't believe she looks just like him. Noah touches her, and the merchant realizes that she can also make her body transparent, but we learn that she only has a physical form thanks to Noah's ring. He praises the merchant for giving him the painting, and promises to pay him for it, telling him to return if he finds anything else. After that, Noah talks to Byron, who reveals that his candidate Ada has been accepted as one of the emperor's attendants. He gives Noah gifts worth 30,000 reen, since he wants to thank him for helping Ada become a consort, and he hopes she will eventually reach the status of wife. We learn that the emperor's consorts are divided into 4 ranks, and they start as attendants, but they can eventually reach the next rank of concubine. Wives outrank the concubines, but they don't enjoy the same level of status as the empress, who is the emperor's legal wife. The consorts can climb the ranks if the emperor favors them, or if their sons perform their duties well, and we learn that Noah's mother reached the rank of wife after the emperor granted him the title of wise. Byron thinks Ada can become a wife if the emperor favors her, but Noah explains that she needs to compete with the other consorts, who might try to sabotage her so that the emperor will dislike her. He tells Byron to send her money, explaining that they must help her since it's all politics, and he orders Zoe to take a letter to his mother, along with 10,000 reen. He tells her to include a message that he's Ada's guardian, and Zoe can't believe he wants to use his mother, but he explains that it's how the imperial family works, and thinks Ada could be a good ally for his mother. As Zoe prepares to leave, he asks her how her mother is doing, so Zoe reveals that she's grateful for everything he has done for her, but notes she saw someone suspicious at the gate recently. That evening, we see Zoe's mother as she prepares to close the gate, but Don suddenly grabs her from behind. He stabs her in the neck and runs away, but Noah tells her she's lucky to be alive, and we see them hiding behind the bushes. He thinks Dawn tried to silence her since she saw him leaving the mansion, and as Awara's spirit leaves the body, Noah tells Zoe to bring it back to her village. He explains that they should convince everyone that her mother is dead, since she might become a target in the future, and he tells her to take a break, promising to call her when it's all over. Zoe thinks they can't let Dawn get away, so Noah tells her not to worry, since Awara is keeping an eye on him. The next day, Dawn wakes up in a cabin, and Noah tells him he's lucky to be alive, since he was stabbed by an intermediary after he reported that he killed Zoe's mother. Noah thinks they wanted to get rid of him since he failed as a spy, and notes that he expected it to happen, so he sent someone to monitor him. Dawn is amazed that he foresaw everything, and wishes he had met him before he was hired as a spy, but Noah notes that it isn't too late. He tells Dawn to swear loyalty to him, and promises to punish betrayal harshly, but mentions that he'll never cast him out. Dawn cries hearing this, and he promises to serve Noah, who notices that his wind affinity has increased, so he thinks Dawn is now loyal to him. He tells him to focus on recovering, and promises to give him a new name and status, telling him he'll make him a governor in Almeria. Dawn thanks him for his kindness, and he wants to repay him, so he reveals that Gilbert gave the emperor a gift. After that, Noah talks to his father, and tells him to stop drinking the wine Gilbert gave him, since it acts like a poison if it's taken with a food called dragon claw. The emperor notes that he eats it with Gilbert every year to honor their ancestors, so Noah thinks Gilbert is waiting for that moment to kill the emperor. Everyone won't blame the wine since he's been drinking it recently, so they will think it's just an accident, and he wonders if Noah is sure about it. So he reveals that he tested it on a death row criminal, who died after he ate the dragon claw and drank the wine. The emperor orders his servant to summon Henry, and sends soldiers to investigate Gilbert's mansion, telling Noah he will reward him in the future. That evening, the soldiers find proof that the poison was tested on illegally traded slaves, which confirms that Gilbert wanted to kill the emperor to seize the throne, so Henry orders his men to arrest him. Noah wonders why his father didn't learn about Gilbert's plan, since he seems to have eyes everywhere, and he admits that he knew everything all along, so he never drank the wine. He explains that he played dumb to test Noah, and he realizes he can trust him, so he appoints him as the Vice Minister of Military Affairs. He also names him Governor General of the Imperial Guard, and orders him to find a suitable replacement, so Noah wonders if his father wants him to find a worthy successor. After that, Noah tells his father that Gilbert's actions amount to treason, so he needs to be cut in half. But Noah explains that the case could be perceived as attempted murder, which will allow them to delay his execution until the Emperor orders it. Albert thinks it doesn't matter since he'll be executed anyway, but the Emperor knows that Noah just considered his emotions, since Gilbert is still his son. But Albert notes that he should be executed immediately, so his father tells him to take care of it. The Emperor wants to give Gilbert's fief to Noah as a reward for exposing him, but Noah is against it, since it would encourage the other princes to sabotage one another to earn the same reward. The Emperor doesn't want that to happen, so he decides not to reward Noah this time, but tells him he should think about his future wife. We learn that engagement at the age of 12 is common in the imperial family, but the prince's legal wives are chosen for political reasons, so they usually have no say in who they marry. The Emperor thinks Noah should marry the granddaughter of his uncle, who's known as the Lightning Prince, and he believes that Noah will have a clever child with her. He decides to marry her, so the Emperor promises to arrange the marriage negotiations, and as Noah walks away, Noah thinks the Emperor should choose his grandchild as his successor. He explains that it will guarantee 3 generations of prosperity, but the Emperor isn't sure if his grandchild will surpass him, so Noah notes that Noah might pass down his brilliance to his son. Noah summons Don, who thinks he'll be executed for betraying Gilbert, but Noah tells him he won't be punished for exposing treason. He explains that Don no longer needs to change his name and leave the capital, since Gilbert has already been executed, and he notes that Don will receive 1,000 reen for his actions. But Noah decides to add a 0, since he wants to reward him for saving his father's life. He notes that he can return him to the Ministry of Imperial Household, and Don is touched by his generosity, so he promises to serve him for life. After that, Noah heads to the market with Gigi, and they notice a crowd gathered around a girl, who promises to do anything for the man who defeats her, but the challenger must pay the entry fee of 3 reen. A man charges at her, but she grabs onto him and takes him down, and she tells him he forgot to pay the entry fee. The other men decide to take her on, but she defeats all of them, and Gigi realizes she's an amazing fighter. A man named Chad challenges her, and he immediately rushes forward, but she suddenly starts to feel strange. He knocks her out, and notes that she now belongs to him, but Noah tells him he broke the rules, since someone shot her with a numbing dart. Noah reminds him it's supposed to be a one-on-one fight, but he tries to play dumb, so Noah activates Leviathan's power to expose the man who shot her. Chad claims he doesn't know him, but everyone knows that the man is his friend, so they tell him to put the girl down. He charges at Noah, who uses Leviathan to cut him, so he runs away and promises to get revenge. After that, the girl wakes up, and she has no idea what happened, so a woman explains that Noah saved her life. He asks her what she remembers, so she mentions that her legs suddenly stopped moving in the middle of the fight, and he tells her it's because she was hit by a numbing dart. He wonders why she challenged everyone to fight her, so she explains that she went there for the night selection exam, but she didn't make the cut and ran out of money, so she can't even afford to go home. He thinks she couldn't have failed since her skills are amazing, but she explains that the 10th prince failed her because she refused to surrender herself to him. Noah knows that he's a pervert, so he believes her story, and he gives her 100 reen, telling her she doesn't need to go home, since it's enough to survive until the next exam. She wonders why he's helping her, so he tells her it's because he likes her, and notes that he's drawn to women who want to be recognized based on merit. Chad arrives with his men, and he tells them to beat Noah up, but he realizes that Lithia wants to fight. He links it with the armor ring to cover his fist with flames, and he starts to beat the men up, so Chad orders his friend to paralyze him, but he launches his flames to stop the man. He grabs onto Chad and knocks him out, but he wonders why their boss isn't fighting, and he recognizes him as the 10th prince's knight, so he thinks the 10th prince paid them to capture the girl. The knight begs for forgiveness, but the girl hears him call Noah the 13th prince, so she finally realizes who he is. She thinks he's amazing since he doesn't flaunt his status, and he decides to let the knight go, but tells him to take the men away. An old man praises him for his skills, and he notices that the man has the golden gourd, which means he's Indra, the lightning prince. Noah greets him, and we learn that decades ago, the emperor assumed the throne, but he was too young to take on his responsibilities, so Indra served as the prince regent. The empire was in chaos, but Indra helped the emperor take control and retired to his fief after 5 years. He knows that Noah wants to marry his granddaughter, but notes that he won't allow it unless Noah meets his standards. He suddenly feels like he's being crushed and thinks Indra is testing him, so he fights back and prepares to push him away, but he thinks he shouldn't injure him in public. Indra admits defeat and tells Noah he likes him, so he allows him to marry his granddaughter. He tells a waiter to give everyone drinks and promises to pay for all of it since he's in a good mood, so Noah realizes he's nothing like the other nobles. He gives Noah a ring and notes that it's an engagement gift, but it suddenly tells him to demonstrate his strength. He finds himself in an open field where he sees a monster charging at him, so he summons Leviathan and takes it out. He sees that his light affinity has increased, and it allows him to use its powers, telling him its name is Behemoth. He wears the ring and uses it to turn a pitcher into gold, so Indra realizes he was able to control Behemoth. He notes that he couldn't get it to lend its powers to him, but he knows that it can turn things into gold, and Noah summons it, revealing that he can make it battle to gain experience. He summons the others to make them fight, and we learn that it's been 1,000 years since they were all assembled. But they suddenly start to glow, and he experiences a strange event, which can only be called a miracle. They all appear before him, and mention how they haven't been assembled since the Silver Age, telling him a day will come when they will fully regain their powers. He returns to reality, and thinks he was just hallucinating, but he realizes that everyone heard their voices. They think the heavens have placed their hopes on him, and he orders Gigi to give everyone 10 reen to celebrate the occasion, which makes them happy. The girl refuses to accept the money he gave her, and notes that she wants to advance on her own merit to become his knight, but he tells her to accept it and work hard to be worthy of him. Indra is impressed by the way he handles things, and the emperor suddenly joins them, so everyone bows to him. He notes that there's no need for formalities, since they aren't in the palace, and he tells Indra to stand beside him, but Noah summons Lithia and orders Leviathan to sense if there's danger. He realizes that the people have no bad intentions, and the emperor talks about how amazing he is, telling Indra he's about to have his first campaign alone. Everyone's surprised to learn about it, since they know that princes usually have escorts when they go on campaigns, and he realizes that the people have turned their attention to him. He knows that his father mentioned it so that he would escort him, and the emperor tells Indra they need to talk, so they ride the royal carriage. Lithia creates a pillar of flames, which distracts everyone, and the emperor realizes it's the perfect chance to tell Indra the truth. He tells him he wants to disinherit Albert, and thinks he isn't fit to be the crown prince, since he didn't hesitate to execute Gilbert. The emperor thinks he's cruel, and Indra admits that he finds him scary, since he might kill his brothers after he takes the throne. Indra wonders who will take his place as the crown prince, and the emperor notes that he hasn't decided yet, so Indra tells him to make up his mind, since the nation will be divided if he doesn't pick an heir. He notes that he has someone in mind, but he doesn't want to announce his decision yet, since it might cause chaos in the imperial family. Indra explains that it's better than not having a crown prince, but Noah tells his father he can keep a will, which has the name of his heir written on it. Indra notes that anyone can forge a will after he passes away, but Noah tells him he can use magic to hide it in his body, and he thinks the idea is brilliant. They return to the throne room, where Cruz introduces them to a new servant, telling them he can't speak or read. Noah tells his father he should regain full control of his military, and Indra thinks it's a great idea, since the princes could use their soldiers to seize the throne. Noah knows he'll lose his position as Governor-General of the Imperial Guard, but he doesn't care, and his father gives him the order to relieve his post. He tells the servant to give another order to Henry, but Indra asks him how he'll handle Albert's disinheritance, and Noah notes that unlike Gilbert, he didn't commit a crime, so he should still be a prince. The emperor decides to write that Albert isn't worthy of the throne, and notes that he doesn't want him to become crown prince again, so Noah realizes he has given up on him. He starts to write the order, but Indra realizes he's making a lot of mistakes, so he explains that he can't bear to take his son's inheritance away. Indra thinks he should start over, but Noah notes that he should keep it as is, so that Albert can understand how he felt when he wrote it. He follows Noah's advice, and orders the servant to deliver it to Albert, but Noah notices he can actually read. He starts to run away, but Noah takes him down, and the emperor calls Cruz, telling him the servant was a spy, so he begs for forgiveness. The emperor tells Noah to decide how they should be punished, so he notes that the servant should be executed immediately, since he sullied the imperial court. Indra thinks they should interrogate him first, but Noah is against it, since he's worried that one of his brothers might have hired him. The emperor wonders if they should also punish Cruz, and Noah explains that his only crime is his lack of oversight, so reducing his pay for 6 months should be enough. After that, Noah asks the emperor what he'll do about Albert, so he explains that he doesn't know, since he doesn't want to be harsh to his son. He asks Noah if he knows about Leviathan, so he notes that it was one of the 4 sages, who lent their powers to the emperor during the Silver Age. Noah thinks Noah might surpass him, and the emperor notes that he has potential, but wants to see how he continues to grow. Noah leaves the palace, and he heads to Albert's mansion, where he orders his servants to wait outside. Albert asks him if he wants to talk in the garden or the living room, so he notes that he wants to see the garden, since he knows that a famous gardener worked on it. As Albert shows it to him, he's impressed by how beautiful it is, and he asks Albert about the tree with 2 trunks. He reveals that it was given to him by a member of his household, and notes that it's worth 50,000 reen, but he tells Noah he'll send it to his mansion within the day. He notes that it's the 2nd time he has given him a gift, and reveals that he gave Leviathan to him as a joke, but he was amazed that Noah was able to wield it. He tells Albert it's almost time for summer, so their father will travel north to escape the heat, but he has decided to take Albert with him. He isn't happy to hear this, since his father always leaves him to rule the empire during the summer, and Noah thinks their father will give him a lesson about ruling the land. We learn that Noah decided to visit him, since he thought it would help him understand their father's feelings, but Albert thanks him for his time and walks away. That evening, a woman named Olivia visits Noah in his mansion, and he wonders why she wanted to meet him in the middle of the night, so she tells him about Albert's plan to overthrow the emperor. He wonders how she learned about it, so she reveals that she was born into Gilbert's household, since she's the daughter of his butler. She knows how Noah tried to spare him, but Albert executed him anyway, so she decided to use her body to get revenge. She heard Albert mention how he plans to use the soldiers to take control of the palace, since he knows he's about to be disinherited, and she swears loyalty to Noah, as she begs him to stop Albert. He accepts her as his assistant butler, and tells her she doesn't need to do anything special for him, but she wonders why he's so nice to her, so he explains that it's because of her loyalty to Gilbert. She promises to do her best to serve him, and he realizes his dark affinity has increased, so he knows that she's loyal to him. After that, Noah prepares to leave, and Gigi wonders if she should arrange a carriage for him, but he tells her he needs to go alone. Zoe realizes he needs to do something important, so she tells him she'll wait for him to return, and hopes he'll stay safe. He rides a horse, and heads to the Ministry of Military Affairs, since he knows that Albert's troops are stationed there. 1,000 men assemble before Albert, and he plans to use them to take the throne, since they were trained to obey the orders of their superiors without second thought. He tells them their nation is rotting, since his father has become senile, and he promises to make the empire great again. They all cheer for him, but Noah suddenly tells him to stop, and explains that his actions will only lead to ruin. He knows that their father wants Albert to live, since he was emotional when he wrote the order, and didn't let the public learn about his actions. Albert notes that he doesn't want to be just a prince, since he's been the heir to the throne for 35 years, and he explains that he'll do anything it takes to become the next emperor. Noah realizes he'd rather die than be reduced to a prince, and he orders his men to arrest Noah, so they rush toward him. He dodges their attacks, but he doesn't want to kill them, since he knows that they're just following orders. He prepares to use his magic items, but he suddenly hears a voice, which tells him to summon the power he desires by its true name. He combines the powers of his magic items to summon the dragon Bahamut, and the soldiers freak out when they see it, but it starts to burn them alive. Noah orders it to stop, since he thinks they don't deserve to die, and everyone realizes they're no match for him. He tells his brother it's over, but explains that he won't kill him, because it will make their father sad. He gives Albert poison, and tells him to use it to take his own life, since it's the only way to save his family and subordinates. He explains that if he kills Albert, they will all be executed as traitors, but if he drinks the poison, everyone will believe he regretted his actions and took his own life. Noah tells him to make his choice, but he thinks Noah is trying to trick him, and orders his knights to arrest him. They start to make their move, so Noah prepares to defend himself, but they betray Albert instead, and tell him they can no longer follow him. They remind him about the 120 men he sacrificed to lift the seal on Leviathan, and reveal that they lost people who were precious to them, so he can't expect them to be loyal to him. He reminds them he's the crown prince, but they force him to remain silent, and tell Noah he has decided to take his own life. Noah gives Olivia the poison, since he knows she wants to avenge Gilbert, and Albert tells her she owes him for taking her in. But the knights force his mouth open, and she makes him drink the poison. He curses his subordinates as he collapses, and he dies a painful death, but the knights promise to report that he took his own life, so that his family and subordinates won't be executed. Noah tells them their bravery stopped the rebellion, and notes that under imperial law, they'll be rewarded for their actions, while Albert's eldest son will succeed him. Noah realizes his stats have greatly improved, because the knights are now loyal to him, and he knows they're talented, but they betrayed Albert since he didn't treat them well. Nas tells the Emperor about the incident, and notes that Albert took his own life, so the Emperor notes that he needs time alone. He mourns for his son's death, but thinks Noah is amazing, since he was able to stop the rebellion. 3 years later, Gigi tells Zoe they received a letter from Evelyn, but Zoe notes that they should read it later, because they still have a job to do. The other maids deliver gifts for Noah, since it's his 15th birthday, and we learn that he has been relocated to Almeria to rule as its lord. Gigi wonders why he gets more gifts every year, so Zoe explains that it's because he helped countless people, and they both think he's amazing. Noah practices his swings, and his fiancée Audrey tells Zoe to give them their breakfast. As they enjoy their time together, Noah notes that they're about to get married, and Audrey looks forward to being his wife. He tells her to be patient, and notes that he won't let anyone take her away from him, since he welcomed her into his life. We learn that Indra talked to the Emperor, who still doesn't know who he should choose as his successor, but he now favors Noah, since he's the wisest among his children. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.